Okay, ladies and gentlemen, apparently we are now live. We're so unaccustomed to doing this in person. We got to get back in the routine here, but it does feel great to be back together in council chambers. We're going to be missing a couple of our members. Councillor Brown will not be attending, and Councillor Desjardins will be attending via Teams. And I can see you, Councillor Desjardins, so I do have my laptop and I can see you on there, so I'm going to try and keep an eye on you, although there is a wee bit of a delay, Councillor Desjardins, but give a wave if you want to speak and vote, albeit there is a few second delay on the voting part, but we'll do our best. So I think with that, we're ready to go. First item of business, Madam Clerk.
Is roll call, Your Worship, and I've taken the roll, and all members of council are present with the exception of Councillor Brown.
Very good. Thank you. Next item, please.
A motion to adopt this evening's agenda.
Motion to Councillor Lupke, seconded by Councillor Chaboyer. Any changes or additions? Seeing none, I will call for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And next item, please.
A motion to confirm the minutes of the regular meeting held on March 1st.
By Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor Parker. Any errors or omissions? And not seeing any, so I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And next item, please.
The order of committee reports, Your Worship, and I believe we have a verbal report from the Audit and Finance Committee.
Very good. Call on Councillor Fawcett then.
Yes, thank you, through Your Worship. Audit and Finance Committee met on March 4th. The sole topic of discussion was the city's 2020 financial information return, the unaudited. Section 183(2) of the Municipal Act requires each municipality to file an unaudited financial information return for the preceding year. That report will be coming later tonight as part of the general business. General fund has an unaudited surplus of $762,632, while the utility fund has an unaudited surplus of $1,053,885. Audit and Finance Committee was elected to allocate the general fund surplus to the sportsplex, parks, storm sewer, and municipal building reserves in order to support future capital requirements. The utility fund reserve will be allocated to the water distribution reserve in order to support the utility's future capital requirements.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fawcett. Any questions of Councillor Fawcett or any members of the Audit and Finance Committee, or likely on behalf of the Director of Finance, Acting City Manager, who is also City Treasurer, in case we've forgotten. And fairly straightforward, although will be the allocation of the surplus funds. I can't recall, is that coming in a separate motion? Yeah, okay. Okay, sorry, did you want to move that report then?
We do have a second verbal report, Your Worship.
Oh,
okay.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay, then we would probably take a motion on the business coming out of the Audit and Finance Committee report. Is that the...
Well, the financial return will be under the order of general business.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon. Okay. No more further questions. Thank you very much for that. We'll take a motion at the end of all the reports to accept those. And so we have another verbal report. Councillor Cameron, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Council, this is an update on behalf of the Brandon General Museum and Archives. The Brandon General Museum and Archives met on March 13th for a strategic planning session. Although the museum is open to the public now, we're still undergoing some renovations of display spaces within the museum. So tours are currently the modus operandi for people wanting to take in the museum. Tours are offered Tuesday through Friday with COVID precautions in effect. The BGMA is also looking forward to introducing some new events as they hope to continue regularly growing over the summer and fall while access is limited. The museum plans to host themed walking tours of the downtown and are exploring different parts of Brandon's histories. The walking tours, which began last summer, were popular and showed the demand for these sort of events. Another exciting initiative that the BGMA is undertaking is adapting and offering new mobile programming that can eventually be brought into schools, daycares, community groups, and clubs. And the BGMA continues to find creative ways to showcase Brandon's history and to work closer with the schools to create programs that will be of interest and engage students in working within their curriculum. I will note as well that if anybody does want to partake of a tour of the Brandon General Museum and Archives, you can book your tour by calling 204-717-1514 or emailing bgmainfo@wcgwave.ca.
Very good. Thank you very much, Councillor Cameron. Great to hear a lot of activities getting underway and preparations underway, which has been very difficult for lots of organizations in COVID times, but we're seeing some light in the tunnel, so hopefully then they'll be raring to go when the time comes. So that's great.
Thank you.
Any questions of Councillor Cameron on the museum report? Not seeing any. Thank you very much. Any other committee reports that we may not have been previously aware of? Again, seeing none, I believe a motion would be in order to accept those committee reports tonight, please. By Councillor Fawcett, seconded by Councillor Cameron. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item, please.
It's the order of inquiries, Your Worship.
Very good. We didn't have, I think, any in advance, but sometimes some come in late in the day. And Councillor Chaboyer.
Thank you, Worship. This is a query probably for yourself, the city manager, and also for Councillor Cullen, who is on the Conservation Board. I think it'd be useful if we could maybe get a report from staff on what is predicted for weather going into the spring and summer. The reason I'm mentioning spring is about flood mitigation, overland flooding, if we can have an update on what's going on with that. And then going into summer, I'm concerned about if the weather is going to be dry, how are we retaining water? And I know that, a lot of what matters comes from upstream, so that's why I'm asking Councillor Cullen to report back perhaps from the Conservation District and see what's going to happen there, because I was concerned when the water was low and our intakes, we're having problems there when the water gets low of getting the fresh water through the river. So I think at some point it'd be useful, and if we could get a report on what's going to be happening with water. Yeah.
Very good. Well, it's an excellent topic, so we'll take that under advisement. We'll maybe have administration come back and provide a report, probably in front of council, so that the general public obviously gets to see it as well, to take into account as many of those considerations, although it's hard to predict the weather. I think they do have some anticipation beginning to get some hydrological reports from the province with respect to the river situation, which so far is quite favorable, but there's certainly many factors as you indicated. And Councillor Cullen, although I know sits on the Assiniboine.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Chaboyer. I was on a Teams meeting for the Conservation District, and also involved in the Assiniboine River Basin Initiative. Assiniboine River Basin covers the entire basin, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and North Dakota. So during that Teams meeting that we were having, it was discussed that this was the lowest precipitation on record since 1952. So as far as the flood situation that within the basin, that is not a concern at this time, but the drought situation is, and it goes way back down into the States and in the basin right now. Now, having said that, one big rain event for like we've experienced before can change that on a dime. But as it sits right now with snow melt and other things, we're actually the driest we've been since 1952. So that's a little concern that we should be having right now. Yes.
Yeah, thanks for that, and that's what I'm concerned about. And also if there is, because I know that our acting city manager, Dean Hammond, mentioned too about ways we can retain water too within our properties, and I think that it's time to sort of amp it up if we have to look at retention ponds and saving the water instead of allowing it to go downstream. Thanks.
Good, thanks for that, Councillor Chaboy. So we'll ask our various branches of administration that concern themselves with these matters to pull a little report together for us. Any other inquiries that may need to be presented this evening? Not seeing any then. Thank you. We can move on to the next item, please.
The order of announcements, Your Worship.
Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to throw this out for people to hear. We often are slagged a bit, the city in general and some of our staff and our management, and for various reasons, and some often not warranted. But I had an experience with city staff last week that I think we should pass on. Anyway, I got a call on a Saturday afternoon about 10 to 5 from a resident whose yard was flooding because of a plugged up storm sewer in a back lane behind his place. And so 5 minutes of conversation, I emailed Director of Public Works Pam Richardson. She responded in 2 minutes and said that she would have somebody look at it as soon as possible. I wasn't sure what to expect as soon as possible. But then I guess it was an hour and 20 minutes later, the resident called back and said the city crew had been there, the job was done, and they had just left. So some pretty outstanding response time and on an off day, I would suggest. So just wanted to say that we can perform very well, and we often do, and it just doesn't always get noticed. So I just thought I would make a point of saying that Ms. Richardson's crew did a great job.
Thank you very much. That's great to pass that on. We certainly do hear your share of the other side, although I have to admit that we do have the odd challenge, but I do get more good stories like that than bad, so we're heading in the right direction. So thanks for highlighting that, Councillor Parker. Other announcements? Councillor Cameron?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think this would be more best wishes than maybe an announcement, but we have learned that Westman Immigrant Services Executive Director Carly Gasparini is headed back home. She's headed to Sudbury, Ontario. Just wanted to wish her the best. She served the city for a number of years as the director of the Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation, and then more recently with Westman Immigrant Services. So, just sending some appreciation for what she's done in bettering our downtown and bettering some of the lives for our residents. So, wish her the best in heading home, I guess.
Thank you very much, although it comes as a surprise to me, so it's the first I'd been aware of it, and I was actually on a Teams or Zoom, whatever platform it was, meeting that she was involved with just on Friday, and the topic didn't come up, so glad to at least be aware of that. Sorry to be seeing her go. I've certainly very much enjoyed working with Carly. She also sits on our Brandon Downtown Development Corporation board. A great contributor. So thank you very much for bringing that up, Councillor Cameron. Any other announcements? I do have one, and I'm going to end up, I think she she's going to get put on the spot. I'm going to ask the city clerk to help me on this. As everyone knows, we do have a by-election coming up fairly soon for the Meadows Waverley Ward 5 after the departure of Councillor John Reggio. So I'm going to get Ms. Iwazik to help me out with the dates. I believe the election itself is May the 5th. But we would really want to help spread the word on this. The kind of current serving city council doesn't usually get too involved in elections, but all the same, we would certainly want to be doing everything we can to encourage candidates to really look into this. You know, we often say that by-elections are kind of a good time if you're, somewhat interested in city council. It's a good time to kind of get your feet wet in a by-election. It could be conceived as a bit of a test drive. There'll be about a year and a half left of the term versus the normal 4-year term. So I know it's a little intimidating for some people to step right into that. And when you come on, you're making that 4-year commitment. In this case, it's a year and a half commitment, or maybe a little less. And so we would like to see a great field of candidates. I know there's been the odd person that have been contacting other members of council, and I think most councillors are, quite open to that. If you know any one of us, feel free to give us a call, and we can tell you kind of the ins and outs and what the expectation is. The city clerk's department does have packages of information that are ready to go, and we'll fill you in on that. So we would really like to see a great, and I would have to say that so far there's not been a lot of buzz. So that's partly why I wanted to make this added to announcements tonight. If the media are also plugged in, which they typically are on our meetings, they might want to do a little preemptory story on this, that we really would like to see a great field of candidates. And as I say, so far there hasn't been a lot of buzz, at least that we're aware of here at City Hall. So we'd sure like to encourage, and if Heather wouldn't mind giving us the dates. I think we're in sort of registration period now, or time that you can get the process started, but if you give us those pertinent dates, it would be helpful.
Certainly, Your Worship. So you are correct. Right now, any interested candidate can come and register, which is a requirement to run if you're going to accept or spend any money on your election campaign. But the important dates for nominations are starting on Wednesday, March 24th, and the nominations will be accepted on the 24th, 25th, 26th of March, and then the following Monday and Tuesday, which is the 29th and 30th. So nominations will close on Tuesday, March 30th at 4:30 p.m., I believe. So if you are interested in running, you need to file your papers by that time, and that can be done through our office. If the senior election official herself is not available, we do have staff that can act in her stead, and we do have packages of information for anyone that's interested. They can certainly contact our office at 204-729-2296.
Thank you very much. So again, nominations will close 2 weeks from tomorrow. So I mean, that's not a long time away. So we really like to encourage people to get involved. We're happy to encourage all candidates. We'd love to. We've got a very diverse community, so we'd love to have a diverse slate of candidates. And in particular, we are underrepresented gender-wise. I often say that poor Councillor Chaboyer is the only female member of council and carrying the torch for women of this community. She does a fabulous job, and I'm quite certain she would not be too disappointed to have another woman join her on our council. I know we would all welcome that as well, but certainly we would love to have a great field of candidates any citizen in our community, but we really need people to take some strong consideration and have a look at it and call any one of us, and we'll kind of help you along with that. So thank you for listening, and hopefully we can stir some interest. So before we close this item, any other announcements that may have popped up? Not seeing any more. Thank you for that. We can move on to the next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Under the order of general business, Your Worship, we have the interim citizen appointments to the Brandon Police Board.
Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move that the following citizen appointments be and are hereby made to the Brandon Police Board with terms of office to commence April 1st, 2021, and continuing until their successors are appointed by the incoming 2022 to 2026 City Council. And those appointments be Shannon Brashon and Tim Silversides.
Seconder, please. Councillor Cullen. Who wishes to speak?
Thank you, Worship. We had two persons resign from the board within the last month and a half, therefore creating these opening positions. We had 15 applications for board members, which was outstanding, and every single one of those 15 applications could be a member sitting on this police board. That's how good the applications were. So it's very nice to see that the interest from citizens in the police board and their willingness to want to participate. Unfortunately, there was only 2 spots open, and the remaining board of the Brandon Police Board had chosen Shannon and Tim to be in us, so we welcome them and look forward to meeting and seeing them at our first meeting coming up in, I think it's in a couple months, I believe. So.
Good, thank you. Any other comments or questions where we do call for the question on it? I'm glad Councillor Barry did emphasize the fact that probably the most number of candidates or applicants, if you will, for a city committee, particularly the police board, with 15, as you indicate, excellent candidates. So in spite of the last bunch of commentary I made about we weren't getting a lot of buzz for council positions, it's not that people are apathetic in this community and don't want to get involved in things, by evidence of the number of people that did apply to be on the police board. So with that positive springboard, hopefully that will augur well for people that might want to run for council as well. So if there are not any further comments or questions, I think we're ready for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
Is the interim appointment of a chair and vice chair to the Brandon Police Board.
Councillor Cullen.
Thank you, Your Worship. That in accordance with the City of Brandon bylaw number 7041, the following appointments as chair and vice chair for the Brandon City Board be and hereby made with terms of office expiring December 31st, 2021. Deb Arpin, chair, and Tim McFadden as vice chair.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Barry. And mover wish to speak?
Yes, Your Worship. As you know, with the departure of Mark Kesselvan as chair, Deb Arpin has stepped from vice chair into the chair position, and Tim McFadden has let his name stand for vice chair. We'd also like to thank the outgoing members, which are Mark Kesselvan and Liz Roberts, for their support and their time on the board as valuable members.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you did highlight those outgoing members, and we are grateful for their service. Any other discussion? And seeing none, I think we're ready for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
Keeping in line with